Hi, this is Addison Shonland. It is May the 20th today, and my guest is David Curtis, who is Chair and CEO of Longview Aviation Capital in Canada. David, thanks so much for visiting with me today.
My pleasure, Addison.
So I think that, I don't know how many people know, but Longview has become one of Canada's most important domestic aircraft OEMs. Can you tell us a little about Longview and the vision for the company?
Well, yeah, I mean, we started in the West. The sort of keystone company is Viking, and we're actually celebrating our 50th year this year with Viking. It's a little bit of an odd year to be celebrating. Not too many parties, but we'll catch up in the next while. But our business really was at that time, an aerostructures and a MRO company doing work for others. I don't think people know that we're a Bell helicopter component supplier. Structures we support the Mirabel Bell production line. We were a Boeing approved supplier. We did work for Lockheed Martin. We built thrust reverser details for the PW, I think it was the 4158 or 68 engine. So we were learning to be a supplier in the aerospace industry and finding it obviously a little difficult to grow, especially as major OEMs started getting drunk on low cost sourcing overseas. So we learned in our MRO group that developing proprietary mods, STCs, owning our intellectual property was key. And that evolved into us in 2005 acquiring type certificates from Bombardier for the legacy de Havilland line. So the wonderful Chipmunk and the Beaver and the Otter, right up to the Dash 7, and that changed our direction. And we became at that point an OEM for a number of well-known designs. We leveraged that. We did a number of conversions, and obviously in 2007 decided to put the Twin Otter back into production, which was bold, and many said it couldn't be done. How can you take an airplane that's been out of production for 25 years and restart production and meet current certification requirements? So we did it. We delivered our first airplane in 2010, the new Twin Otter 400, and we've I think aircraft number 160s on the production line in Calgary, waiting for the smoke to clear from the industry to be delivered to a customer. So, that really, we understood that owning intellectual property was important. We also understood that even though, the barriers to entry to design a new aircraft, a clean sheet, are incredibly expensive, incredibly risky. I think, you've talked to many OEMs, the designing and certifying a new clean sheet design in today's world isn't for the faint of heart. And we recognized that we had some really great designs. So that led us to further discussions with Bombardier on the Dash 8 program. And, as we concluded that transaction almost a year ago, of course, we never would have been able to forecast where we are today, but we still very, very much believe in our strategy. And that's, again, looking at existing designs, own the intellectual property, and improve, modernize, and put, get another product cycle out of them. Same strategy. We acquired the Canadair CL-215-415 aerial firefighting program, also from Bombardier. We're deep into doing exactly that. With that program, we've taken some original 215s and converted them to from the wonderful old radial engine to a brand new PW123 turboprop. And we're delivering those. We're new avionics partnered with Collins, and we're putting a new flight deck in the airplane. So again, getting another product cycle. And then the last acquisition, which wasn't really publicized because frankly, we don't know yet what we're going to do with it, but we acquired the Shorts Brothers SD 330 and 360 program. So we now own those type designs and intellectual property. So again, long answer to your question, what's our strategy? Our strategy is to own fantastic designs that are certified with a good install base, good histories, and invest in those for additional life cycle. You won't, at least, and I, never say never, but it's unlikely you'll ever hear that Longview is about to certify a clean sheet design. Won't happen. So that's where we are, and we quickly, with the de Havilland acquisition, we now have the crown as the largest turboprop manufacturer in North America. So we're pretty proud of that.
One of the things that amazed me was to see, and it speaks to the core design, the electric Beaver, the e-Beaver that recently flew in Vancouver. That is incredible. It's incredible that the design is so robust that you'd have gone from radial to turboprop to electric. Only the power has changed, but the core design is amazing. It is still state of the art.
Oh, I often reflect back that I'm sure that the original designers of the Beaver in 1947 would never have imagined that airframe would still be, some, I don't know, 75 years later, is still the backbone of charter and being evolved like it is. No question. And we obviously very aware of all electrification of aircraft, and we think our product line will be the first to see that transition, and whether it's 5 years or 10 years, all TBD, but we're very involved.
That's a great story. So your company has two widely diverse business units. There's Viking that focuses on the small operators, and de Havilland that's on the much bigger operators. And I'm putting that, let's say, diverse business units focused on commercial aviation. We'll put the water bomber into its own little world. The customer bases are very different approaches. How do you, at Longview, how do you work within that kind of wide approach?
Well, out of the gate, we recognize that our customer demographics are very different. And, I know you've talked to Todd Young. He's our chief operating officer in the East at de Havilland. He understands regional aviation better than anybody. And we knew that we needed to keep things separate. There's always, in any kind of acquisition, there's always this, center of gravity to pull you into consolidation, and savings and all these things. But we, out of the gate, we recognized very distinct businesses need to have separate leadership, need to be run as independent business units. And any sort of synergies or consolidation would be step by step, very calculated, as we looked at, IT or distribution networks or those kind of things. But, Don, we have a relatively new chief operating officer in the West by the name of Don Boytson. And Don is running everything that's kind of Calgary, Victoria based, and Todd's running everything in the East. So we're on the phone, all of us, every morning, and all those, those opportunities that come up between the two different groups are always there. But I'm doing a pretty good job of kind of keeping them separate but together, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a very diverse customer base, And we're seeing that, it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody. It's the de Havilland side that's been more impacted with COVID than the Twin Otter side. I mean, those airplanes, the aerial firefighting, they're critical infrastructure aircraft owned by government. Twin Otters are doing all sorts of interesting things. Peru, for instance, has a dozen of them, and they're flying relief and support and flying more than they did, 3-4 months ago. So very, very different business units.
Right. The western side of your business is last mile, and the eastern side of your business is last 300 miles.
Right.
Quite a different kind of a business.
It is. But, I guess it helps, like everything, to have a bit of a diverse portfolio. So we're fortunate that way.
If we look at you mentioned COVID, so I want to ask you about that. I think it's also a subject that everybody in this industry would like not to talk about. We're all a little worn out from that thing. So if we look forward at the air travel starts to recover, and I mentioned to you earlier that we just did a story on Croatia Airlines. It seems that we consistently hear this. Todd mentioned this early on, but we've heard this consistently, that it's going to be a routes up recovery. We hear this over and over again, that regional airlines is where air travel is going to recover. So this means obviously the de Havilland, the Dash would be on that side to pick that up first. What's the view at Longview? What are you able to do to help your turboprop customers, commercial turboprop customers, move forward? And for example, with deliveries or even new orders, what are the customers doing right now to get planes, or can they order planes? Is it easy to get, for example, Canadian government export fund support?
Well, you've asked that's a lot of questions wrapped up in there. I think, let me talk first. I think, so, the de Havilland side, they're working very hard to help our operators, redeploy. I think you may have seen some recent media on the small package freighter conversions. Right. I'm very proud of Todd and the engineering team. I mean, they got those service bulletins kind of turned around in a matter of weeks and out to the fleet, which has allowed a number of Dash 8-400s to be redeployed, carrying cargo. We and then they quickly turned that into a similar SB for the legacy 100, 200, and 300, which we're seeing lots of interesting uptake on. So it's they've been focused on helping operators better utilize the aircraft. Now, regarding new deliveries, new opportunities, for sure. You're reading, it doesn't take much research to understand that everybody believes domestic travel will be the first to recover. We're even talking about it in our own businesses. We're moving between different business units. So I think that we're monitoring that. We're helping our customers as they start to bring aircraft back online. So you're seeing Croatia Airlines, same kind of thing. They're recently announced more activity. We're watching Air New Zealand, where their domestic flying is coming back. We're having, some years ago, de Havilland delivered Dash 8-400s to Japan in a combi configuration. Lots of interest in that, converting existing airplanes into a combi passenger cargo, 50, 55 seats. The capacity, there's no question that rather than flying a 37, TAG Angola, a new customer for the Dash 8, they're looking at the Dash 8-400 as an aircraft to replace the 737 that they operate domestically. So, we're being reactive. I can, I don't think anybody would be surprised that airlines aren't, our customers aren't exactly looking at expanding their fleet or adding capacity. They're just trying to figure out how they're going to use their existing capacity. And as the OEM, we're reacting and doing those things quickly. So, we have a number of airplanes that are in what we call pre-delivery. They're I like to say out of the barn, but not yet got a C of A. And so we're working with those customers, hand in glove to assist them in delivering the airplanes. Just getting air crews moved around to move aircraft is challenging. So it's every aspect of the business right now is heavy lifting.
Right.
But the conversations that Todd has had with the leadership, the airline leadership, every single one of them have confirmed that they want the airplanes, and it's just a matter of how are we going to do that, when, and what's the status. So, still, we've called back some folks. We've got airplanes that are flying, being flight tested and getting C of A's. We've got aircraft that are in the paint shop. So, one foot in front of the other, and we'll move forward.
Right. It's interesting when I'm listening to you mention the Angolans, and then you have obviously the situation with Flybe, which wasn't an airplane problem, it was an airline problem. And then we have the situation at Austrian where they're talking about retiring the turboprops, but the rumble in the jungle says that a lot of the people at Austrian want to bring those planes back because they can use them. They're much more cost effective for the traffic volume. But I don't know if those decisions are made in Vienna or in Frankfurt. So, it's the right size tool for so many airlines right now to have a turboprop. And I think it, because you're at the bleeding edge of the knife, so to speak, that's moving through time here. I can imagine things are changing daily, and as you point out, even moving crews around to deliver airplanes, they're just blockages to the left and to the right. Yeah,
it's this is an old, getting worn out, but it is a new world, and you just, as I say, it's a daily exercise. There's usually something new. We delivered our first 415 EAF to a customer in the U.S. and just getting airplanes deregistered and re-registered and getting, FAA DARs to come and, accept modification, like it's painful. And, but you just got to be persistent and you work through it all. So the good news is in the US, they need firefighting airplanes. So there's a little bit of motivation there, but the rest of it, we're just not able to move people across the border very effectively. There's quarantine requirements. Air crews are exempt, but you go across the US-Canada border and you need to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks. So it's challenging to say the least.
David, do you have any sense, my last question for you, do you have any sense when you look up at the horizon, let's not say a light at the end of the tunnel, that's also getting old. If you look up at the horizon, how far away do you think you are from a sunrise?
Well, I don't know if you're a pilot, and I don't know if your listeners, I guess the analogy I have is my artificial horizon's low on suction, so it's kind of tilting to one side right now. But I think we're in kind of this new normal for at least a year. I think things will start, by the end of 2020, we'll start seeing some green shoots, as they say in the domestic side. And I think this is a 24, 30 month kind of journey back to where we were. In the meantime, we're taking some opportunities to invest in, obsolescence issues. We've got a fantastic engineering group across our company. We're looking at, what projects can we accelerate? While we've got some downtime, if you will, what can we do to move some of the products ahead? So we're looking at everything, Twin Otter increase in gross weights to, cargo configurations for Dash 8s, large doors, to dealing with obsolescence, product enhancements, everything that we're struggling to put bandwidth on. We've got time, and now's a great time to invest from our point of view. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you, David. That's a fascinating conversation.
Great. Appreciate it. Let's do it again.